Like everyone else who calls Melbourne home, I've just experienced one of the longest and toughest lockdowns in the world. Let me tell you, freedom is a wonderful feeling. It's also a massive relief to know our sacrifice wasn't for nothing. We controlled and beat the outbreak of COVID-19. But behind the smiles, there's still frustration and anger at the monumental stuff-up that caused it all, as well as a determination to ensure it doesn't happen again. As Melbourne endured its second lockdown, this time for more than 100 days, these kids were locked out of Trish Williams's dance studio. So, Saturday, October 31st was a day worth celebrating. Trish, this is it. You're finally open.
I know. It is. It's so exciting and so long. So long we've waited.
Forever, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like forever.
It does. It feels like forever.
Even though they were forced to train outside, at least they could do it together.
2. Change.
Something that has been an excruciatingly long time coming. This must be quite liberating then.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like just to see them all free and being able to move and do what they love to do is just incredible. Welcome to my happy place.
Oh, this is it, your beautiful studio.
Yes, yes.
When I first met Trish in April, her happy place had become sad and silent. Must be strange to get used to an empty studio like this.
I don't want to get used to it. And hopefully it won't be too much longer and we can all be back together. So yeah, it is very strange to be here and be so quiet. It's never quiet, ever.
The lockdown was not only financially devastating, the psychological impact was real too. What about for you when dance was taken away from you? How did you cope?
I know I had a couple of weeks there that I struggled. I struggled mentally to just, you know, what am I doing? Stay in bed, watch TV. And it was starting to become one of those groundhog days. And not coming here was the worst thing.
Empty?
Empty. Growing spiders and dust.
All 5 million Melburnians were forced to endure 3.5 months of isolation. It was a sad, surreal experience.
The world is completely different and it's happened in a matter of weeks.
Like every other Victorian, Melbourne Lord Mayor Sally Capp had to make major adjustments in her life. We were so close to getting on top of this virus, and now it's almost taken control of us. How frustrating is that?
It is frustrating, uncertainty, but a sense of loss of control. I think they really factor into some of the distress that people are feeling at the moment.
No Australian city has been hit harder or longer by this pandemic than Melbourne. But it didn't have to be. How do you find your security guards?
Gumtree.com, there's a lot of websites where you can find security guards.
In August, we reported on Melbourne's hotel quarantine fiasco. Have you ever done a job like this before?
No, I have never done the job like this before because this thing just started, so I don't think so anyone has done that thing before.
The Victorian government got into trouble after deciding to hire private security firms to guard quarantine hotels. When John inquired about this work, the person on the other end of the phone was much more interested in his readiness rather than his experience, or lack of it.
He was a subcontractor and he asked me if I'm still willing to work in security. I said, yeah, of course I am. So he said, okay, you just WhatsApp me your license and your availability.
Is it normal to hear from somebody on WhatsApp for a job?
No, not really. That's a bit strange. Like, it's unprofessional, totally unprofessional. And another thing, like, there was no interview.
But it got worse. Not only was there no interview, there was no training.
When I reached there, I asked him, so what are my duties and what I'm supposed to do? He said, go on this floor and ask the other security guard what you're supposed to do. So I went on the floor and I asked the other security guard, and he was like, "Oh, it's also my first day here." Yeah, that's a bit strange, yeah.
Life for those inside the Melbourne quarantine was just as confused. While returned travellers Ricky Singh and Kate Hislop were locked up, they took the pandemic seriously, but felt no one else did. Were either of you tested for coronavirus?
No.
At any point during that 2-week period?
No, not at all.
You were not tested once in 2 weeks
Not
as
once.
returned travellers?
No, it was definitely a shock to both of us, yeah.
It's not on, to be honest. I don't understand it, yeah.
No.
As the clock struck midnight, South Australia became a very different state.
As last week's South Australian emergency lockdown showed, hotel quarantine is the biggest outbreak risk Australia faces. But the problem with Melbourne's quarantine hotel security was there wasn't any. In fact, guards became super spreaders of the virus, and the city's second wave of COVID-19 peaked at over 700 cases a day in August.
On this ward in particular, we've got, someone dying almost every day at the moment. On this ward, people aren't used to seeing people die on a regular basis. It's not what they signed up for. It's not what they're prepared for.
More than 800 people would die because of this stuff-up. But Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews wouldn't make any admissions on what was clearly a catastrophic failure when I spoke to him in August.
Premier, Sarah Abo here from 60 Minutes. Do you know much about the security guards themselves that were deployed to this critical role, and do you appreciate that perhaps these people weren't the right people for this role?
I'm not here today to talk about the security industry. That's not a matter for me to determine. That is a matter for another process.
There is frustration in the community that we are here. You're frustrated as well, we know that too.
No. I think there is a very big challenge that we all face, and I'm very much focused on dealing with that challenge.
Why weren't the police used?
I don't want to be discourteous or disrespectful in any way. I have answered these questions many different times. I would again confirm for you, we have a process. It is not about the government sitting in judgment of itself. It is at arm's length as it should be.
With respect, those questions are being asked because the answers aren't there.
Because the answers are to be provided by the retired judge and the judicial inquiry. I think that's the point that I'm trying as politely as I possibly can to make.
The inquiry is now due to hand down its final report on December 21. How good is this, Lord Mayor?
It is so
Melbourne
good.
is finally back.
It feels great.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
But for now, the heart of the city is starting to pump again. And Lord Mayor Sally Capp couldn't be happier. It's so nice to actually be in a bar and having a chat and not worrying about, the infection rates or anything like that. It's a weight off our shoulders.
It is. It's a wonderful sense of freedom, and there is a sense of joy as the city is reopening, and it reminds us how important that human connection is and how much we've missed it.
Again, if you need to move forward, stretch those feet, engage your core, and find your centre to...
So their faces were beaming the whole day, and you gotta love that.
My heart is full.
The sparkle came back to the studio.
Yes.
At long last.
Well, we love sparkles.
Lots
Sparkles
of
are good.
it. Lots of sparkle. What do you call these? Spirit fingers? Hello, I'm Sarah Abo. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.